we'll go ahead at this point in time and open up the meeting to public comment. So if anybody in the audience would like to make a statement or make any kind of comments, if you just please stand and give us your name for the record.
Do you think maybe we should, excuse me, I'm sorry, maybe we should read in what the discussion's about and then?
Well, this public comment is for what's not on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Oh, for non-agenda, my bad. I thought this was a specific work meeting for this, one item. Okay.
It is, but
It is.
we still have to have public comment. We will have additional public comment probably throughout this. We will kind of stretch rules a little bit so we can have plenty of public comment. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. And the agenda item, as you all know, is to have a work session for the potential or the possibility to make an adjustment in the current structure of the Virgin Valley Water District's Board of Directors in terms of changing it from a board made up of elected and appointed officials to all elected officials. And so at this point in time, what we would like to do is we all have a copy. I don't know whether the audience, do we have copies of this, the audience? Okay, everybody has a copy of this so we can all look at it. I don't think that if we go ahead with this, that we need to try to change every word in this document, because this is a lengthy document, and I think it's fairly well written. Basically, we're dealing with portions of the document, but I think it would be wise for us maybe just to kind of to go through it, and we can move along a lot faster if anybody has any issues in one of the sections that they would like to discuss, then we will go ahead and talk about items within that section. Otherwise, I know we won't get out here probably till noon tomorrow because it's a lot of verbiage.
So what you're recommending is that we go through this whole thing?
Well,
section by
not really
section?
go through it. I'm recommending we don't try to go through the whole thing. I'm just saying we can kind of look through it quickly. I've made a few notes on some of the items, and I would assume maybe everybody else has, and
Well,
maybe.
that's not in question. The document's not in question, Mr. President.
The whole document can be in question. if
It
we
could
like
be.
it to
It
If
could
we're gonna
be.
go to the state, let me make a statement. We're gonna go to the state legislature with this. It's not something you just do easily, and you don't do it often, because it's difficult to even get these items even heard through the state legislature. We don't wanna make changes every year to try to amend this document. So if we think there's things in this document that need to be amended, now is the time to do it, not again in the next legislature after this one, or the one after that. Let's take a look at it and make sure that, we have what we want here. Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a statement. Thank you. I'm the one that introduced this several meetings ago, trying to make it as simple as we possibly could. I have talked to 2 legislators and our own lobbyists, and they have all agreed on one thing for sure, and it's that let's make sure that whatever we do is in unison and there's no negatives from anybody or legislation. It won't go through legislation. The original agenda items call for us to change the 2 appointed positions to elected positions. Leave the board of makeup exactly as it is now, 3 and 2. Mesquite still has the hammer that some people are concerned about that. But that way, that makes a simple thing for the legislators to deal with, and that's the advice of 2 legislators that I talked to, plus our own lobbyists. I do kind of like the idea of our legal department changing some of the verbiage in the contract so that at some time down the road, if we wanted to go back and change this contract, we could do it without going through the legislation. That's the simplest thing, and we're dinking around with this thing. Now here it is, the middle of September. We started the 1st of August, and if we don't get this started pretty quick, we're looking at 2015, the next legislation before we get going. So all we're doing here is we're asking the board to approve changing this to 5 elected positions. That's all we're doing.
Okay, your definition of contract, this certainly is not a contract, this is a piece of
Well,
legislation.
whatever. I think they knew what
So
I was
it's not
talking
quite,
about.
it's
Yeah.
not, it's not like
Yeah.
changing.
Did you know what I was talking about?
Yeah, we knew what you were talking about, but, you know, I know that you brought this forward, you just brought it forward, though, that's all you've done. And, just because it was brought forward there's nothing been voted on here, and there's been no.
I know, we
decision.
can't get a vote on it.
Well, we hadn't been before us, and if you would, allow this to be discussed, then maybe we might get to
Okay,
that
all
point,
right.
otherwise we might not get to that point.
Okay.
All right. I don't know why you're so angry about this.
Well,
This is a
because we
simple
keep
thing.
tabling it, it's a simple thing.
It hasn't
We
been
should-
tabled. What are you talking about?
You tabled it.
I did.
Sure did.
I did not table
Whenever you're ready for public comment.
it. Yeah. Maybe we are ready for some public comment because, anyway, there's a number of sheets in here, and I know there's been a lot of talk about who's done what and so on, so there is one little sheet in here that has some information on what was put into this organization in the first place, and what the current populations are now, and what the number of hookups are, and all that. I know that that may not be important to some, but because there has been a lot of comment that on that, along those lines, that I felt that it may be good for us to at least take a look at that, so you've got it to look at. Okay, you wanna go through this, or you have, because otherwise it's gonna be a very short meeting, and then we can bring it back on the second.
Yeah, I think we're here to hear from the public, so
Yeah.
if it would please everybody on the board, I just open it to the public, hear what the issues are, and not
Okay,
have to go through the whole big
all right, let's open it up.
charter
Oh,
class.
you're already up there. If you'd give us your name, please.
My name is Barbara Elistad. I'm Mesquite Citizen Journal, and more than that, a private citizen. I've been coming to these meetings now for almost 6 years. I've seen the good and the bad, and a few uglies, but we won't talk about that. And I strongly encourage you to request the legislature to change the charter to have all board members elected. I have seen no value in 6 years, and this is nothing against, certainly nothing against Mr. Gustavson. I've seen it with Dave Bennett, I've seen it with Craig Hafen, and I've seen it, or I'm sorry, not Craig Hafen, Dave Bennett and Bubba Smith, who were appointed council representatives. I saw no value in that at all, because they never took anything back to the city council from their membership at the water board. So, you know, I've heard that argument before, and I've never seen any evidence that that's a good, strong argument. So I would strongly encourage to allow the citizens to decide who's gonna represent them in the water district, all 5 members. I strongly encourage you to recommend minimal, absolutely minimal changes to the legislature. The more you muck it up, the worse it's gonna be in the end. I strongly recommend not changing the ratio of board members from what it is now, and most of all, do not increase it to 7 people. There is no value in having 7 people yakking up there and voting and talking and everything else. There's no more value in 7 than there is in 5. I think the ratio between, of having 3 people represent Mesquite and 2 people represent Bunkerville has been an ideal representation. I think it's fair, it's all across the board, I just think it's fair. If you make any recommendations for changing, the pay requirements and compensation requirements that are already in the charter, I would recommend that you follow what the city council does, that the board votes on those pay increases, because that's never a decrease. But they would not be effective until the next term changes, so that people are not voting to give themselves an increase in compensation. I think that the board should decide what the pay is and have that particular item removed from the charter that stipulates an actual dollar amount like it is now. Of course, you could follow OPD's board of directors and, you know, give yourself $500 a meeting, but we won't go there either. But again, I think keep the changes to an absolute minimum, or you're gonna come out with a bill, once it gets up in the state legislature, you're gonna come out with a bill you never recognize. Thank you.
Found it by
I thought the $80 was fair until I saw OPD's pay. Now I feel a little underpaid.
I'm transferred.
I'm just kidding, by the way. Go ahead, step on up and say your name and.
Dwayne Magoon, Bunkerville resident, ratepayer. Just so the board, I'm sure you're aware that Bunkerville did vote on this issue. And our recommendation as a board was to agree with the change of making all positions a voted position, and eliminate the appointments, which I think would be good. Therefore, then the people get the opportunity to exercise those rights and eliminate, if there ever have been or ever will be, conflicts of interest between the appointments. Basically, I'd mimic everything that Barbara just spoke. I think the less we mess with this, the better off we're gonna be. And I also believe that the City of Mesquite City Council also made the same recommendation that Bunkerville did. And I would say that that's your community representation. And I would ask you to strongly consider what the public's already asked. Thank you.
Thank you. And just for the record, what the city council voted on was to make them all elected officials and leave it up to the board to do whatever else they wanted to do. So,
Okay.
that's what was actually voted on.
I thought I read in the paper this morning that the city is gonna have a workshop at the next city council meeting and then vote on it.
It is on the agenda for the next council meeting.
Pardon?
It is on the next
Right.
council meeting agenda
And
to
to have
approve
a
the
workshop.
resolution.
At that same time. Or an open, or excuse me.
A public hearing.
Public hearing, yeah.
So did they vote or not?
No,
No.
not yet.
They
Not
have not
officially.
voted.
Actually, we did vote.
We voted on that
Who we voted?
to present that.
Okay, I'm just looking at the agenda for the next meeting, that's all
Well,
I'm
that may
going
be,
by.
it may be on the next agenda, but it has been voted on already. Okay.
Mary Ann Levitt.
Section nine.
We've seen you.
Yes. I agree with what has been said. I just want to strongly stress, the Bunkerville Town Board, when they voted on it, strongly recommended and said the only way that we would agree with this is if it did not become a 5 at-large election, it still needs to stay the 3 and 2, and so that's just what I want to emphasize.
No,
3
we-
from Mesquite and 2 from
There's
Bunkerville.
been no discussion of at-large.
Okay, we just want to make sure that doesn't get
Those words have never
put in
come
there.
up, at least in this board meeting, they've
Okay.
never come up with to be any at-large vote.
Okay. All right, we just want to make sure that happens. No, we don't want to do that.
That could be a possibility,
No.
but it's not anything we
No.
thought about. And incidentally, I think there's been widespread, appears to be widespread agreement that then having all elected officials is a good idea. I don't think anybody has questioned that I'm aware of.
Is this gonna change term limits or anything?
That's a good question. Could appointed her for 2, elected her for 4.
I don't know, that is a good question.
Probably something
We'll
that have to be,
have,
that'd probably have to be something that'd be amended if we did go to an all elected.
I think Kenyon is up, isn't his 12 years?
Yeah.
And there are, you know, term limitations do apply, so.
Well, I would ask you to make sure that that is absolutely clarified and in fact written into the piece of legislation, because that is the exact problem we're having right now with OPD and their term, determining their term limits. Because when they went to a 7-member board a few years ago, now we're getting some kind of
One of the-
information
One
back.
of the board members moved to a different seat, therefore.
No, he didn't even move to a different seat. He's just saying that when that board membership increased to 7, that reset the term limits. So I would ask you to have that absolutely clarified in writing.
How is it right now?
I don't think you need to, because I think it's already clarified in state legislation that any elected official has a term limit. I think when we have our attorney check it, that's what you're going to do.
The way it is right now is the elected people are 4 years and the appointed people are 2 years.
The state
Depends elected
constitution is
too.
what states that it's a 12-year
12,
limitation.
yeah.
No,
Three-
no, I'm
three
talking,
terms
I'm
or
talking
12
about
years.
what terms are served by.
But Ken's elected at least 2 years.
Or,
There's 2, yeah.
oh, so maybe one
12
of the,
years.
Well, you don't want
Says
them all
that
to
in
come
here.
out at the
Yeah,
same
it
time.
does say that one is the,
it does say one is
Hey, where
2
you
years,
been?
2 and
I've been
4.
working my
One is
butt
4
off.
and one is 2 in Bunkerville, right?
Oh,
And I just
the one that-
assumed, I just assumed it was appointed, it was a 2, but it does state that in the charter.
yeah, I'm gonna confirm that, but I think that's what
it does say. Now, that's something you may want to look at if you're going to go to elected officials as well and
Yeah.
stagger the elections. So those are the types of things that when we say
It's,
we're going to make changes, maybe we do
Section
want to.
5, number 2, I think, Bo.
We have another.
Bill Tanner, 730 Hillside. My suggestion is you have 5 elected board members. They be on 4-year terms, no more 2-year term, no more appointees, and they stagger those terms. We've had situations here at the Water District in the past where all 5 members are up for re-election or appointment. Mary's indicated that's changed over the years with the appointments, but I've seen in the past where all 5 were up. We need to get all of the board members on a 4-year term, 3 of them staggered with 2. That way, you don't have a complete changeover of the board, you have unison, you have people that are here that can educate the people that are coming on, and it works out in a manner that everyone's acceptable with. And that hasn't necessarily been the case for the last 19 years of the Water District.
You're right. I concur with that. I think that would be a great way to go. That's something that we can bring up in our meeting on the 2nd. I don't know how we would stagger, we would have to.
Says that chosen by lot on the
Chosen by
2-year
lot,
term.
yeah.
one is 4 years, the other are 2, and the 2 appointed are also 2. So everybody's 2 years except for the one person chosen by lot initially at 4 years.
That's what's in there, but that's, if we
That's
go
what
to
it says.
4-year, we would have to change that.
Yeah, I'm just saying what it says currently.
Yeah, one of the Bunkerville representatives is a 4-year, and then one of the ones from Mesquite's a 4-year chosen by lot, and the rest are 2 years.
The 2014 election needs to be probably addressed, but I would assume the legislators could do that. Because 2014, I would be up for re-election, and so would Sandra. And if we get all elected, it'd have 2, so you'd have 4 people up for election in 2014.
Well, I think what they would have to do is they would have to do just exactly what Mr. Tanner said, and we would stagger them, like probably by lot, as you said. Have to decide which we're gonna do the 2 years and the 4 years based on the highest vote getters. Maybe you have the four highest vote getters would be the 4 members, or the 5, I think it'd be 4, no, it'd be 5. I don't know, it can be worked out. I don't really think that's a big issue.
So can you serve 3 4-year terms?
12
What's the-
years
I don't
total.
understand, what's the 12 years?
That's the
That's
maximum
minimum.
amount by state law that you can have as elected official. You can either have, because some elected officials only have 2-year terms, or if you come in the middle of a term or whatever. So it's 12 years or 3 terms, or 3 elections.
And they can be consecutive?
Oh,
Yeah,
if they're not consecutive, then it doesn't count.
At all?
I think it still does.
No, I don't think so.
So you can have a break?
If
and
you
then
said
come back?
after 4 years, you can be reelected and,
Only in a different, like if you're a city councilman, you'd have to run for mayor or something else. You can't run for the same
Oh,
position.
that could be.
maybe, that's not the way I understand it, but
Is that correct, Billy?
That is not correct. If you
It's
are.
not.
if you're out for one term,
If you don't run and you're not elected for 4 years and you're out of the political arena, then
You
you
can
can
come
go
back.
back in 4 years later
and then
run.
have the
And then
same
run
12
for
years,
3,
right?
for,
Right.
and
But
seat
you
for
have to
4,
be
or
out
12
of
years.
Office for the
For the
term.
term.
Right.
Right, that's the way I understand it.
If you're out of office for 1 term, you have the ability to run again for 12 years.
Yeah.
Okay. There again, well, before we take this to the state legislature, we're gonna have to, the attorney's gonna have to check it all out anyway, so.
Yeah, it's Article 15 of the Constitution. I'll pull it up here and read it. But you guys can keep talking.
Okay. All right.
Any other public comment?
Come on, guys, help us out. Leave us a lot of hard work.
Well, we've just said it as simple as we want you to make it.
Yeah.
It sounds like you don't have a lot of changes you wanna make.
No.
It's really pretty simple. If you do that, I
Amen.
mean, we can talk about how to do the term limits,
Yeah.
how to stagger it, but
Yeah.
if that's really all you're gonna do, then looks pretty straightforward and
I
simple.
I think it should give some of us older members more money, though. Take
I
away
would,
from-
I'd like to see us change the compensation to nothing. That's what Kenyon told us one time, that he wanted to take it to nothing, so.
Well, that's the way it was originally was set up.
Well, can we amend that piece of legislation to include OPD in that
Yeah.
part?
Federal deal, and I think George is the one that screwed that up way a long time ago.
That might be something as far as compensation that you don't want to leave into this you want to take out of this document.
Right.
Well, that's what we were
You wanna
saying,
do
and,
that, yeah,
and have the board members vote on
Right.
what it is that it's affected the next term.
Right.
You cannot, it's just like the city
Can you do it
council
by
now, you
ordinance?
cannot raise your own pay.
Right.
As long as you're in, for the term of office that you are seated, you cannot raise your own pay. You can vote on a pay change, but it will not be effective for you until you leave that particular term of office,
Until you're reelected.
until
Or
you're
if
reelected.
Right. But all they need to do here is just take it out of there when it be bogus taker. There's that.
Sorry, Ted, I didn't hear your question. I was.
I'm such a math, because I didn't even know you got paid for this job. I just
Talking
wanted
about,
to.
the compensation in here is $80.
If we just
We wanted
removed
to
it.
change that, and remove it out of here, and then
Yes.
make it do it by ordinance when there's actually a
Yes.
change.
I think I might check today.
I think we wanna make this just as very simple
Well, I better
as
not
we
put that
can.
on the record, my wife will know about it.
It's on the headline now, Betty.
We've already told her.
You're covering up the numbers.
Can I get a close-up of that?
Okay, any other comments? Yeah. That's pretty simple.
Who draws this up, the suggested,
Our attorney.
so are you guys gonna make a proposal to him, or how's that gonna happen?
Well, this,
We'll put it on the agenda,
that's be on the agenda October
and then we'll
2nd.
vote on it. We'll make a motion and vote on it. And then if it's approved, we'll direct the attorney to, depending on what the motion is, that motion will go forward, and then they'll prepare that motion, or give that motion to our lobbyists, who will then have take it to the state senate.
He's already
have it
reserved a
introduced,
spot
right?
for us to go into the,
Bill.
he's just waiting for us to approve it.
Now, there's no way that that would change, you know, from the discussion here to the understanding, to the time it comes back and goes to the legislature, is there?
I assume it could,
It
yeah.
could change depending on our motion,
Yeah.
when we vote on it.
Was is there any way it can come back before the board as an exact motion that's
Yes.
going after it's ratified, so that
Well, I would-
there's no changes after that fact?
I just recommend you come to the meeting when we make the motion to make sure that.
Well, we're under the jurisdiction of the county commissioners, so I would assume it would go to them first.
Yeah, that's true, that might have to go to the
If,
county.
if it was gonna be different than this.
Do you know both, it has to go to the county?
No, Warren Hardy, I think, was gonna handle that stuff. We can get him on the phone, he's available. Yeah, we would, I think, as I understand it, the purpose of this meeting is to take input from the public and have everybody voice their opinions. From that point, that if the board wants to, they'll put this on the agenda to take official formal action by the board, and at that point, you guys will make a motion. I would prepare the language to revise the charter as, you know, whatever changes the board might direct, and then we'd give that to Warren Hardy and he'd take it through the state process.
Warren would probably work with you on that, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing and what I would like to see is that proposition or what that's gonna say before. I mean, it sounds to me like, yeah,
It'll come
you're gonna
before-
write it up.
It'll be in a public meeting.
It'll be in the exact language will be in a public meeting, yeah.
It'll be during the regular board
I think
meeting.
that's all.
Yeah, it won't, none of this will go on behind the scenes. The public will know exactly what's gonna be proposed and given to the state legislature for approval.
All except for the pay raise will be.
That's top secret.
Keep that private, we won't tell you about that.
I would like to, if we're close to concluding, or when we're ready to conclude, I'd like to parrot back what I think I heard to make sure that Bo and I get the language into the October 2nd agenda with this revised charter. Whatever